Ciao Matteo, buon anno.
Ciao Luca! Happy New Year!
And everyone, welcome to season 2.
Wow!
Yes.
Season 2?
Yes, it's gonna be like Dallas. We're gonna do
What are we going to do in season 2, Luca?
in season 2. We are gonna. Do you remember when you were a kid? I remember about my childhood. I remember a few things, and one is Twin Peaks. Do you remember? I don't know why. I even got the the episodes, and when I travel, I watch it again. I cannot pass episode 2, by the way. And Dallas is the same thing here. We're gonna go for like 40 seasons of like or Grey's Anatomy, like 20.
It's not ending, Grey's Anatomy, so
Only the course of nature will end it. Trust me.
well, I'm not sure. Okay, Beautiful is still running, Luca, and they swapped off actors multiple times.
Oh, Beautiful is still running.
It's still running. Of course, it's still running.
So, well, in season 2, we are gonna tackle. I think what we are gonna tackle is still again the modern web. We're gonna talk about. We're gonna get our audience more engaged and involved with what we discover in the past months about our benchmarks, about how we can optimize the modern web. But I think today, as a nostalgic restart, as the beginning of season 2, I wanted to talk about one of the major topics of the modern web, CMS and the JAMstack, right? With everything kind of like, I was talking with Matthias last time I was, a few times ago when I was in San Fran, and I had the pleasure of meeting him for coffee. Matthias, the founder and CEO of Netlify.
Wow.
And I think actually him and I literally spoke about a little bit where the future of the JAMstack is and the web, and a little bit kind of like the rise and next evolution of Netlify. And I think this episode is pretty interesting because Netlify started with the famous JAMstack, and then now they're evolving into modern needs of the web. But Matteo, what the heck is the JAMstack for the people that don't know it, and they're not as old as we are?
Okay, JAMstack, was created some time ago. Okay, at this point, when was this coined? When this term was coined?
I don't know. I remember that I didn't have a little bit of white beard and white hair, so that's what
I just wonder. Okay, let me see in Wikipedia when it was defined. Okay.
And don't forget to donate to Wikipedia, by the way.
Oh yeah, of course, always donate. Oh, and OpenJS, by the way, also always donate to OpenJS. There is.
They're already rich enough. Wikipedia is the modern knowledge.
Yeah, there is a few reference starting for 2015. Okay, it was coined by Matthias, Matt Billman. Okay, it coined the term. And so JAMstack is an architecture pattern for the web where you combine a statically generated website, okay, and together with APIs and the new capabilities of HTML5 and so on and new HTML features to build highly interactive applications on top of a rich client, experience.
Okay.
And this works very well because it allows applications and systems to be to exist without being coupled to a server, and it's very straightforward to deploy, and it has very little requirements on the server. It's very light. There is no server-side rendering in this system. There is just APIs that are called from the front end. And there is essentially a gap between the front end and the APIs that is using.
And let's try to give it a little bit of context with Node, right? Because clearly everyone is.
Let me add one more thing. With JAMstack, okay, we had a lot of content. Usually when the rise of JAMstack, okay, had the rise of headless CMS, meaning a CMS without a rendering pipeline, only with API access. So that essentially would allow any users to plug in whatever front end they wanted to render that content, making the use of a CMS highly personalizable. Like, this is critical because imagine that you want to deliver a certain kind of design or user experience for the reading of your content, the accessing of your content, and not being limited to, let's say, what WordPress's themes offer you, okay, or Joomla or whatever.
Yeah.
And the JAMstack allowed you to do that very straightforwardly, okay. And to be honest, still does, okay. It's I think it's still a valid pattern. Oops, Luca.
And I'm back.
Cool. So we were saying. I totally lost the flow of the.
No, we were talking. My question was like, how does Node actually fit into this equation of JAMstack? And you were
okay.
kind of like,
yeah. Now, the Node.js fits in JAMstack essentially. To some extent, it doesn't. Okay. It's in JAMstack you have a build process that compiles these single page applications, okay,
yeah,
and do all the rendering that's needed on the server, okay. It creates all the rendering on the servers correctly, and then all these rendering things are accessed on the front end, is materialized on disk essentially, or on S3, CloudFront, Cloudflare, Netlify, Vercel, and so on and so forth. Is Netlify during build, okay, and then accessed at runtime, okay, from the browser in the oldest possible way. Static files. These makes things super scalable to some extent. For obvious reason, we're just serving files, okay, and we are just getting the content from some sources. This created a completely. This materialization created a full-blown set of new problems, okay? Because imagine that you have, a blog, okay? You need to create an HTML file for each one of those things and have the rendering and so on and so forth, and materialize them and do all this generation beforehand. Why you need that? Well, you need that because of SEO and browser access. Typically, you're getting points if your content is already there when Google bot access it without loading any JavaScript. So as simple as that. Okay.
Yeah.
So you need the materialization of things and not fetch them from APIs. So essentially, you had a flow where somebody will edit some data, and then the website will be rebuilt and republished. Okay. Now this is the most important critical part. Okay. And your camera is gone again.
Sorry, Theo. Today is like when you're back from holiday, like back to school, and nothing works. That's today, basically. Okay, sorry. Let's continue. I apologize.
Node.js on the server, okay, is in the traditional JAMstack is not really used. Is used in the build process, okay, to create these bundles and this rendering that goes into disk. Okay, so you have a repository which is stored on Git. Okay, and in this repository that's stored on Git, then you run a build process, and then you get an artifact that then you put somewhere, and this is somewhere likely S3, Cloudflare, CloudFront, Netlify, Vercel, whatever, Fastly, goes push to a CDN, more or less, and access super fast everywhere. Website is super snappy.
So basically, I kind of like materialize the whole website content, try to push it as materialized pages on a CDN.
Okay, yeah. And it makes the content safe, super fast. Okay, no problems, no nothing. Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect.
And clearly SEO optimized.
Of course. Okay. Now, this has two problems. Okay. So first of all, this has two problems. Okay. We said the content is in Git. Okay?
Yeah.
Now, the problem is that no marketing person in the world wants to edit content in Git. Okay. Well, maybe one or two, but you get the feeling, right?
But in theory, Contentful and all these modern headless CMS, they can actually provide the functionality, right?
Yes. So how it works is somebody pushes changes to these headless CMS, as we were mentioning before. You get your headless CMS. Headless CMS does a ping to the infrastructure, okay, that then fetches the data and regenerate your blog or your CMS or your static site, whatever, from that content.
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay. Well, up to a point. Okay. You can only this setup, for example, does not work for it does not work for e-commerce. Why? Because a lot of e-commerce have a high cardinality on items. Okay, you have if you have an high cardinality of items, it's very hard to materialize them all on disk whenever something changes. Okay, or when you want to update some UI, okay, you need to rematerialize them all. If you have 1 million items, it starts to be a problem. Okay.
But for example, like you mean if I have all the items, because you think about the quantity available field in this case, or you think about?
No, I'm just thinking about the kind of product, the number of products that are available in a catalog. Okay, for example,
I mean, it's only a cost that you do once, right? The materialization. Then
well, you don't do it once, Luca, because teams want to ship at the speed of light. So you want every single time that you ship a change, you need to rebuild the full project. So you need to rematerialize all pages.
Okay. So, but you think about the dichotomy between SEO optimized versus kind of like changes and so on. What is the kind of like main concern that you see?
Sorry, the main concern, okay, that a pure JAMstack approach would not work for a lot of people, is that the time that it takes to do the build for 1 million pages, essentially, let's put in the number, would take too long.
Okay? Yeah, oversees the time of delivery of the new assets from the team to the market.
Exactly. So you want to be able to ship stuff in a matter of seconds to some extent, and it's impossible with a long build queue. It provides better performance, absolutely, okay? But because it does all the computation up front. But if you have a high cardinality on the items, it might take too long.
Yeah, okay? Even if you have 10,000 items, actually building these 10,000 pages. And
to be honest, in a lot of cases, there was a lot of problems with bigger sites. For example, with Gatsby, where it will holding all the data in memory before writing, and all of that will take way too long. Okay, and sometimes it was also crashing for out of memory for some time.
Yeah, Gatsby, wasn't it actually
acquired by Netlify?
Acquired by Netlify.
Okay, so anyway, there is that. Okay, now you have a CMS attached, right? So we have a CMS. Now the CMS is needed essentially for one specific reason. Okay, allowing editing by marketing people, by non-technical, by content editors. Okay? Content editors needs to be able to push content out, push fixes out without a developer. Now there is no one in the world of them that wants to edit files on Git. So this strategy of pushing to Git, it's not working. Okay. Now CMSs have needs access, multi authorizations. They need permissions. They need reviews, the multi-user access, kind of operational transformation, CRDTs type of thing for editing, all sort of things, right?
Yeah, I mean, they have a workflow, right?
They have a workflow. Okay, that's the point. They have a workflow. So that is the problem. So we had JAMstack, okay, and then we had this headless CMS that brought the part from the WordPress to some extent that will not be replaced. So some people even use WordPress as a headless CMS, okay? Some people use Drupal as the headless CMS because it's actually possible to do this kind of things.
Yeah, but especially in this agentic world, right?
Well, no, this is the back in the days. We need to talk a little bit more about what is happening right now in the field. Okay. Now we have seen, and this is the point of the future. Okay, we have seen a few people online claiming that they could replace the CMSs, the headless CMS, just with agents and a pure GitHub workflow. Okay. Because agents, let's say, love working with Git and Markdown. They also love working with API. They also love generating HTML and so on and so forth. Okay, so and you could argue that throwing everything through an agent, forgetting about the cost of tokens, okay, is a massive can do all the things. Okay. But my big challenge here is the human factor and the fact that you want marketing people, creatives, to be able to go and edit that blog post from a UI. That's not Git.
Yeah, I think that there's another kind of like point there that, I mean, without agents, we had the world of callbacks, right? Like imagine from Contentful, I could create a webhook that on content change, I can call an API. I can call a service, like, and in Talos we build it. But I struggle to really understand how the humanity in general can actually think that agents are any different than the callback. I change content, and an agent, what it does what my API was doing, regenerating the content.
And not exactly. Okay, that's exactly the difference. Okay, that what there are few people that have been claiming. A few people have been claiming that the headless CMS word is dead.
But what do? You write an LLM that basically goes and simulate a CMS that then does that.
Well,
like I don't think
that's the point. Like, Luca, okay, let's speculate and design a system that allow multi-user access to a Git repo, okay, for editing and allowing previews, of course, because you need previews. And yeah,
but I don't get it. Like, it's nice because what we are basically doing is like a normal chat at the bar. Like, that's what the Banter is about. And I think if we were sitting at any sort of place we visited with our usual old fashioned and say, what the heck is happening to the world, right? Probably the answer would be exactly the same. Like, I can't actually really understand how literally the world follows those kind of like fictional instructions that they don't make sense without rationalizing. Like, still, I'm asking to, a technical and technological person like you and say, what's the fundamental difference between, like, how can an agent go and remove a primitive? Because the CMS is a primitive of the web, of modern web, right? We can like it or not, but it's the truth, right? It's been embedded in us as a primitive. How can an agent actually replace that? What would be doing? Like, give me an example of what this claim is. I can't understand it, sorry. Like, instead of going into Contentful or WordPress to change the content of a page, I text an LLM and say, I want to change the content of this page, right? So the LLM has a context or has some sort of like a persistent storage where they say
the storage is in Git. So the storage is in Git.
So basically the agent is a glorified intern that knows how to use Git, and he sits in between a marketing person that refuses the existence of Git and somebody that accepts the existence of Git.
Yes.
And basically the agent is going to find the H or the div or whatever where that text is located. It's going to locate that change and do that change. Change it in Git and do git commit, git push.
Yeah, the agent
and
does
trigger
it.
a workflow.
Yes, that's the workflow.
So basically, the agent is, in this case, what a normal web interface could be. Because I can do the same with a freaking, you know, node API and an Express website, right?
Yes.
Okay. And so what is the where do you see this big advantage? Because I don't understand how, like, so first of all, agents needs a structural and well-defined model behind the scene, right? Because they cannot derive context from a non-structural context.
Yes, but Markdown plus Markdown with front matter gives it to them. So at the level of the individual blog post, we are there.
No, but let's think about the e-commerce. Like, imagine, I'm giving you an example, right? You know, I'm a big fan of Louis Vuitton, and I was very, very impressed when they took the step of normalizing online and offline experience on Shopify, right? So if you go in a Vuitton store, they use Shopify as a point of sale, which is phenomenal, by the way. Like, the experience for the user, it's incredible. So imagine somebody at Vuitton that needs to change the description of a P9 Speedy 40 centimeter, right? And add a new color to the list and say, this year we have whatever color you like, Theo, like lila or whatever.
No, you can't. You don't even have the edit box.
So basically, this
you go and open up your Cloud Code.
No, I open up an LLM interface, whatever it is, right? And say, add this new color to the P9 Speedy 40.
Yeah.
And basically the agent knows what he needs to do to add this color to the
to change the files on disk in the Markdown files to do this.
Okay, so the same thing that WordPress did.
Yes.
So instead of saving on disk, the button press save triggers a pipeline that takes this file from the file system and push it into a Git repository, right? From a database to a Git repository.
Yeah.
Okay, this requires GPUs, right? It requires NVIDIA to.
Yes, yeah, of course.
Okay. I mean, okay. Yeah, I cannot wait for Neuralink to kind of like make progress. I think that's going to be the biggest disruption. Yeah, okay. Yeah, it's a little bit shocking, right? Because we started building literally a primitive that started to disrupt the web, and we found that actually human laziness is actually the barrier between a system to continue working and the must need
to be honest. Okay, let's clarify this. It has some advantage, okay? Because if you use this kind of structure, okay, you need some custom design for your page. Well, there's no need to pull in a designer, whatever. You just do it. Now, it might not be what you like, but it just do it. Okay.
Yeah, but all the freaking product pages, they look exactly the same.
Man, all the blog pages, all the content pages, all the documentation pages.
And they do it because every product category has a certain kind of like study that we have been running for years and years of research, saying that there is a certain psychology associated to a certain product on a certain page. Like Booking.com has been running multi-million-dollar experiments to just optimize where to put the freaking book now button. So I don't know. I'm a little bit kind of like, but apart from the philosophical thing of how useless agents they are becoming, And I take responsibility in saying that is a process of dumbification of humans. But so let's go back to Node, right?
Yes.
The only thing that survived the horde of agents. Where does actually Node fit in this modern architecture, right? Imagine the modern web, the web of these unified experiences, the web of fast content. Like Massimo Bottura would say of slow food and fast cars, right? That's also the name of his last book. Talking about Italian cuisine, right? Because we are famous for slow food and fast cars. How is this web, right, made of fast experiences and ... Where does Node fit in this equation?
Well, the fundamental point here is philosophical, okay, in my point of view. And to some extent, it comes to JAMstack versus what we are doing right now, okay? Like, going back to the high cardinality, okay, of changes, the key part there was, well, we need to do rendering on the server, okay? We need to do the HTML on rendering on the server so we can serve it to the user at super fast speed, okay? And cache it on the server so that we can reuse, we don't have to do much work, okay? So not all the work needs to be done to the user on their front end. But last but not least, okay, we don't need to rebuild the full catalog when something is changed, because it's just rendered on the fly, okay? And to be honest, this is how WordPress work, okay? Going back like 20 years, something like that. Okay? More, like 20 to almost 30 years, okay? Probably 30 years, okay? So 30 years, it's been doing the same, okay? Essentially.
And still powers the internet.
Pretty much, okay? So this is the model, okay? Now, if we are moving into a world where our interface is the chat and the agent, okay, I can literally not have those kind of UIs to edit it anymore, okay, but just chat with the agent to do the work. And rely on, instead of having previews done by my editor, okay, I can do my previews with the build system, okay? Still, though, I still have the problem of the high cardinality. So, and this is where, to me, all this world falls apart, okay? The problem is still that we need the high cardinality, okay? The systems needs, you cannot, if you need to rebuild all the things every time, essentially there's a change, you run into high cardinality problem. Okay, the build takes longer and longer the more content you have. Okay, this is problematic for shipping. So you need to get, and this is where the role of Node sits in. Okay, it's in those kind of isomorphic systems where you have your content, your JavaScript running on the front end and on the back end, and you have Node.js on the back end rendering the HTML for the front end.
And just like a very provocative question, right, because we're almost at time. We always talk about the elephant in the room in the modern web, and we know that where we're naming, like Vercel, right? I think they kind of like took...
They completely moved away from the concept of JAMstack, okay?
Exactly.
And shifted most of the rendering on the server, mostly to cater for the e-commerce case. So you cannot do JAMstack with e-commerce mostly, okay? And you need to do it on the server with server rendering, and that's how it works, okay?
Yeah, and I think Vercel kind of like, you said it brilliantly, like, I think Guillermo and the rest of the team, they nailed actually that kind of like high cardinality problem with the web and fix it with a kind of like all around cater platform around,
Yeah, absolutely. It's fantastic.
The other question is going to be very provocative here. There is always a cost associated, right? Because I can solve cardinality with adding more resources, right?
Yes.
Easy, right?
Yes.
And I mean, what if there are many e-commerces that we spoke with, and they say, well, we know that actually Next and Vercel are the right fit from a technological and conceptual standpoint. The problem is that there is no unit of economics to run on-prem for us. And on the opposite, there is the other cost, that is the hosting cost, right? So we are a little bit between, the two sides of the bun, if you get the pun here. And we are not trying to kind of like hint to something we are publishing, but so what's your point of view? I mean, kind of like very, very honest, like, I mean, where is the real problem on solving this high cardinality of the web? Like,
well, to be honest, I think the solution of server-side rendering is what everybody has done since the beginning of the web, and it just works. Okay, and we're back to the roots. Okay, and in terms of CMSs, content management systems, and so on and so forth, you need, but also in all things, to be honest, in all things AI, AI shines when it's used to augment humans. Okay, AI shines when there is a human driving, and there is a human in the seat and reviewing what's being done and having a short review cycle. Okay, and passing through a build system to generate that kind of updates is too long. Okay,
the dichotomy of the kind of like the fun part of that. It is kind of crazy, right? AI is there to replace
if you're building a JAMstack system with this Git is your source of truth for the data, then your system is slow.
No, I agree. There is no escape there. I fully agree with you.
You need, like, in order to guarantee a super fast update cycle for the website and previews and so on and so forth for editors, okay, that are not technical, okay, they need to be able to do that in with a UI, and that might include an AI component to it, to be honest. Okay, but instead of having the agent drive the editing in that sense, okay, with I would like what I want. I would love to have an AI system that spans between my CMS, my social media managers, okay, and my file editors. And it can interact with all those systems like they are APIs. But this is what the CMSs are, the headless CMS are built for, API access. Yeah. So my sort of prediction in the space is that, in fact, headless CMSs will actually shine again as people realize that they can use their API systems to be combined and combined easily, build integration easily that could not be possible to integrate before, and have these kind of agents work on those. Okay. And that can still provide super live preview updates and so on and so forth that don't require rebuilding the site, okay, that is the most important bit.
Yeah. I think just as a closing, I think I agree with what Augusto from Kong actually said. There is no AI without APIs, but I think that sentence is also kind of like clearly marketing for them. Kong builds an API gateway. But I think there is a lot of there's a lack of truth in that sentence. That is, but most APIs are not ready for AI. That's my other kind of like thing. I think we have still a gap in this imaginary world where this system can interact with these random APIs. I think we really need to kind of like build a standardized protocol around that to unify the way APIs are built for agents and AI communication. I know that MCP was kind of like an initial attempt of like doing that interaction, but I think we are in need of a more universal AI agent protocol that we can use to transform all these APIs into kind of like this system that can be really interact with each other. Until then, I mean, I'm sorry to say, but if I need to build a cron job or if I need to build an API that interacts with another system, I can just build it myself. I don't need to make NVIDIA richer and compute AI for doing something.
But the fundamental point here is the continuous use of tokens, okay? Like instead of, now, but this is the key point, okay? Instead of having a software built, I'm continuously using tokens to doing the work.
It's not only about, I mean, there is a part of like, there is a cost clearly, but to me is it really solving a fundamental problem or is it just like fulfilling laziness? That's my thing, right? Like if do I really need to, like I see people that they use Cloud Code to say, schedule this job and have a background agent running that is basically a glorified node cron on a process always alive, right? I mean, anybody can build it, right? We build it in VAT in no time. Like Marco built it in no time inside of VAT.
Yeah.
Right? It's one line of configuration and run and launch your freaking Node.js and build your Node.js app with Fastify. To be honest, that's where AI would make sense. If you really want to be lazy, right? But I think there is this kind of like gap between laziness and willingness and value. And I think we are cliffing, especially in this JAMstack, we are cliffing into a point of non-return where we have like an agent-driven. It's just building technology for the sake of building technology, not for value. And then I think, we go back into what is the cost of technology against the value. And that's, and I'm saying something like at least Vercel is expensive, but it builds something that fundamentally solves a problem.
Oh, but this kind of system will be built on top of Vercel. No.
100%, but I think is a brilliant social hack that was done by Vercel. Like I genuinely believe that is brilliant. It's brilliant, but the real fundamental value was something else and not this AI agent that they kind of like. It's a glorified hosting with glorified compute for just the sake of running something. Like at the end of the day, you solve all this. The real value of building these agents is the hosting and running part. That's where, Vercel and the AI SDK will,
of course,
win. But I think the real fundamental technology shift that was done was the original Vercel platform, the one for hosting websites.
Oh yeah, yes, but to be honest, we still need frigging CMSs. I'm like, even in the JAMstack, this was a massive I shipped a massive JAMstack back in the day with Gatsby, and the first major thing that people complain about was the lack of live editing.
100%.
So again, I don't think it's possible for anybody to ship this kind of software.
No.
And minus a few companies, but even them, that will not work for them.
No, 100%. I fully agree on that. Theo, we are at time, so we discussed the Banter.
Bye.
Through technical difficulties, we make it to the end. See you next week, same time, same place. Ciao, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.